is we've got the questions all collected now. Is that correct? Excellent. What we're going to do is we're going to go to our closing statements. Mr. Duckers will present his closing statement first. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Lacey, Mr. Irigonegaray, members of the audience. We live in interesting times, times that some future historians may well describe as the era of self-flagellating hubris. On the self-flagellating hand, we are told every day in almost every way that man and mankind are some combination of evil and dumb, but mostly dumb. We burn the wrong things to generate energy. We eat the wrong food. We generate the wrong chemicals. We really can't seem, we use the wrong forms of transportation. You know, what we've done is when choices had to be made, we've chosen that which is economical, efficient, and convenient. And we really should have been choosing that which is uneconomical, inefficient, and inconvenient, because that's what cap and trade is all about. We should be living in one-room huts like we did in the 1850s, riding our bicycles to work, wearing hemp shirts, and eating only that which we can grow in our own backyards. And then you have the hubris, the extreme mind-boggling arrogance to think that man, who can't seem to get anything right, can somehow determine the precise, correct temperature on a planet that has existed for 4.5 billion years, and that with a stroke of a pen in Washington, D.C., we have the ability to control that climate for the next century. It is not the sun, it is not the mighty oceans, it is the pen in Washington, D.C. that signs cap and trade legislation that will determine what your climate is in the year 2100. And to state the proposition, it is such a bipolar juxtaposition of wildly inconsistent thought processes that it leads one to the conclusion that tonight we did not need geologists, geographers, economists, and lawyers. What we really needed in this debate was a psychotherapist. Now, I want to switch the order of the issues that we've talked about, because I think the debate tonight was decided in the testimony of Mr. McKenzie, which stands unrebutted in the record of this case. And that is the testimony that says a cap and trade bill in the United States will do nothing to prevent global warming if, in fact, man-made global warming is real. And that, ladies and gentlemen, ends this debate. Because you can't very well do a cost-benefit analysis when there ain't no benefit to what you're doing. Doesn't matter what it costs, who it pays, we're not getting any benefit. Now, the argument is usually made by the advocates for cap and trade that, oh, we need to do this to lead the way, and then China and India will follow. There's a response to that. It's a Latin phrase, old legal Latin phrase, and it is, give me a break. I mean, we didn't just fall off a turnip trunk here. There is no objective evidence in what's happened in the last 15 years to suggest that China and India are going to follow our lead on cap and trade. We emit 5 times as much carbon per capita as China, even though they are now the largest emitter and growing by leaps and bounds. And for us to go to them and say, you must match us, is like going to them and saying, well, we just cut off our little finger, and in exchange for that, would you please cut off your arm? They're not going to do it. So we're talking about a unilateral reduction in carbon, which will wreck our economy, increase the price of energy, increase the price of everything you buy, because energy is incorporated in it, to accomplish absolutely nothing, in some sort of foolhardy belief that the Chinese will follow us. So why are we doing this? I don't have the slightest idea, but I'll tell you one reason we aren't doing it, and it's the reason you're almost always given. The ghosts of 9/11 are invoked, and you're told this is a national security issue. We have to wean ourselves off Middle Eastern oil by enacting a cap and trade program. Well, that's a lie, and the evidence that that's a lie was given to you tonight in the testimony of Mr. McKenzie. We don't burn crude oil to generate electricity. Cap and trade is all about electricity and about emissions from companies that burn natural gas and coal. If anything, ExxonMobil stands to benefit mightily from a cap and trade proposal because, guess what, folks? They produce a lot of natural gas. And cap and trade is going to shift electrical production to natural gas. This isn't about big oil, and this isn't about the Middle East. This is about some sort of income redistribution scheme that includes money going from the United States to the rest of the world without question, and jobs going from the United States to the rest of the world, while there's income redistribution going on within the United States. Because as the professor of economics alluded to in his own testimony, we know what's going to happen here. You folks are going to pay the bill. The federal government's going to take a chunk out of it and decide that someone more deserving needs a piece of it to pay those higher electric bills that were brought about by cap and trade. Does it, you know, I've run out of time. The debate on global warming will stand on its own, but you don't need to reach it, my friends. You never need to reach it, because this bill has no benefit. It will do nothing. It will cost a fortune. Reject it out of hand, just as you did my business proposition at the opening statement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Duckers. Mr. Irigonegaray.
I don't have the leisure of time to try to be cute about this. Tobacco still kills 5 million people a year in the world. 45 million Americans continue to smoke because of the misinformation of the tobacco industry. Exxon and other large corporations have a direct financial interest in the outcome of this debate. Exxon has given over $2 million to the Center Enterprise Institute to promote bad science about global warming. Exxon, in 2005, placed into the atmosphere out of their own products 1,047 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. Think about that. If you take a look at the nations of the world and the amount of pollution of CO2 that they produced, Exxon would be the 6th. First, the United States with 6 gigatons. Next, China, 4.75 gigatons. And unlike what my opponent said about we being the only ones interested in developing clean energy, China has recently invested $20 billion to clean up their own air, recognizing the health hazards to their people. Because this isn't just about money. We've got to understand that there are consequences to your children and your children's children, their health, our environment, our crops, poor people in coastal areas that will be displaced by millions, because the National Science Academy suggests that at the rate of continued CO2 pollution, ocean levels could rise by 5 feet by the end of this century. This isn't a matter of whether or not global warming exists. The science has proven that. We cannot be fooled again. We cannot be led to believe that these giant companies don't have a financial interest. What's the financial interest of someone like Dr. Fetterman, or someone like Dr. Erdhart, or all of these scientists from American national academies and 11 national and international organizations that are monitoring CO2? Are the Japanese lying about it? Are the French, the Italians, the South Koreans? Is it a world conspiracy when in fact we shouldn't be concerned? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. The amount of CO2 in the atmosphere today at over 380 parts per million is the highest it has been in over 800,000 years. The National Academy of Science concluded that 2009 was the warmest year in recorded history. Now, 1 year does not make climate change a reality, as Dr. Fetterman said. But when we look at the totality, not an isolated event, not a specific piece of data, but when we do an analysis, as legitimate science has done, we recognize that global warming is a reality. Look, we're not out to save the world. The world is going to be fine without us. But we are concerned about the future of humanity. This little ball in which we live in, which came about 4.5 billion years ago and will disappear in about another 4 billion when the sun expands and consumes it with immense heat. We're not going to be there. Extinctions occur all the time. But while we are here, while we exist in this planet, we ought to do everything we can to leave it perhaps just a little better than we found it before. Just a little better, a little healthier. What value, what price do you put on health, asthma, and other related issues? In Russia right now, with the fires, Pakistan, go out and read, become involved, be proactive. Don't be fooled again.
Thank you, Mr. Irigonegaray. Now for our